Take a moment and imagine that we weren't Canadians. We wouldn't be singing O Canada, there would be no CFL, and we wouldn't even have the Calgary Stampede. This is what our lives would be like if it weren't for the War of 1812. In 1812, the U.S. declared war against Great Britain. The British were blocking the trade routes for American ships, which meant they could not get through Europe to trade. Further, the British started searching U.S. ships for sailors and citizens to force them to serve in the British Navy. As a result of these scavenges and humiliations, the Americans invaded the British in Upper and Lower Canada, which is now present-day Quebec and Ontario. Luckily for us, the British, along with their First Nations allies led by Tecumseh and Brock, defended their land successfully and kept the Americans from taking over what is now Canada. But if the U.S. invasion had been successful, we would be Americans. Sorry about putting that freaky thought in your head. Without the War of 1812, Canada could have possibly looked like this. Or like this. This war should be considered the most important event in Canadian history because it led Canada to keep our linguistic diversities and control over our own affairs. Today, Canada is a bilingual country, and this is all because of the War of 1812. It ensured Canada's French-speaking people could continue to speak French and keep their unique identity. If we had become American, however, French would have probably been outlawed. Today, we have our very own unique parliamentary democracy that is very different from the U.S. Now, would you like it if there was still a war going on between Canada and the U.S. today? I don't think so. Since the end of the war, there has been no military conflict between the U.S. and Canada. The border between the U.S. and Canada is the world's largest undefended border. The peace treaty that the U.S. and Canada both signed said that they would not pass 105.3809 latitude, which soon became the border between Canada and the U.S. So what I'm saying is that if the War of 1812 hadn't happened, there'd probably be no peace treaty, and there would probably still be conflict over the land that is now Canada. Canada and the U.S. support each other in most of their military conflicts. Canada and the U.S. are also one of the world's biggest trading partners. Canada is a first world country, which means we are rich and we have a great economy. Some of this comes from the goods that we get from the U.S. So if the War of 1812 hadn't happened, we might even be a third world country. As you can tell, the War of 1812 was very unique. The results of this war were so important to Canada that the citizens continue to see the impacts of them today. It led us to keep our linguistic and ethnic diversities. It made the borders between Canada and the U.S., and it led to so many years of peace with the U.S. and so much more. Without the war, over 35 million people today would not be able to proudly state, "I am Canadian."